Troth's Elk Hair Caddis is one of the best and more effective imitations of a caddis adult out there. It also happens to be one of the simplest dry fly patterns to tie. The materials you'll need are a standard dry fly hook, in this particular case the Daiichi 1180, although for sizes 16 and smaller I recommend going to the Tiemco 100 or the Daiichi 1110 for the wider gap or gape. You'll need dubbing. The Elk Hair Caddis lends itself to a variety of different colors, which means you can adapt it to the insects in your region. You'll need extra small ultra wire. Most people use gold. I prefer the effect I get from the copper. You'll need a quality dry fly hackle. Of course, you'll need elk hair. And for today's variation, you'll also need Krystal flash and calf tail, foam, antron, high vis, some form of high visibility orange. To get started, dress your hook. You'll notice that I've started a little bit behind the hook eye, and there's a reason for that. We'll get to it in a minute. Tie in your ultra wire just above the barb. As we've discussed before, I tend to prefer dubbing loops for most of my patterns these days. You can use whatever tool you want. I happen to like the Cowbird dubbing tools. Create your thread loop. Insert your tool. Place your dubbing between the strands of thread and twist. As the loop tightens, you can go through and you can pick it out to make it as thin or as thick as you want to have it. I think the dubbing loop creates a bit more durable body, and it certainly creates a fuzzier one. And if anything, caddis are, shall we say, not the most streamlined of critters. Add your Dave's Flex Cement. Then spin your body. Now you'll note I'm not taking a loop behind the wire this time, and there's a reason for that. What you want is you'll want a tapered body, smaller in the back, thicker in the front. And you want to stop it and approximately where you started your thread. What you're doing is you're leaving room to tie in the head. Start your hackle forward instead of in the rear. Now, this is the reason you didn't wrap behind the wire this time. You're going to use the wire to tie in your hackle. So what you're going to do is one in front to tie it down or trap it against the hook shank, one behind. Then what you're going to do is work your way forward, just like you do on a woolly bugger, where you work that wire in amongst the winds of hackle. At this point, I tend to like to take just a small drop of Flexament and glue down or glue in that tag where the wire holds it down. Now, take your Krystal flash, just a single strand, and fold it up. Tie that in. Clip it off about even with the end of the hook shank. Notice it'll flare out, and you can help it along, kind of fan it out over the hook shank. Then what you'll need to do is grab yourself a clump of elk hair from the skin. Now you'll notice it's not very even. So what you'll want is you'll need a hair stacker. Place it in the stacker. And this becomes a wonderful way for people to work out aggressions, where they pound it on the table. I tend to be a little quieter about it and just tap it lightly on my hand, where it comes out even, more or less. Some people like a thicker clump, some people like a more sparse one. Depends on the type of water that you're fishing. But notice one wrap, two wraps, pull in a little tighter the second time. Work your way through toward the front. Now's the time to decide, is that thick enough? Is that what I wanted? Is that going to work for the water that I'm on? If it is, grab hold and trim. If it wasn't thick enough, If you thought you needed a little more flotation, you could have added some hair there. Now, I generally find that the Elk Hair Caddis is bulky enough to be seen even at distance or in low light. But for a few people, they like to add a little tuft of something, whether it's high-vis, foam, calf tail, what have you, to the front to make it just a bit more visible to them if they're fishing it a little farther away, or if they're in low light. My eyes aren't what they used to be, so I can appreciate what they're doing and the reason for it. Get in there and just finish it off. The Krystal flash will give it a fluttering effect, give it a little sparkle as if the fly is actually fluttering. Use Dave's Flexament again to seal off the tip ends on the elk hair, creating the head. And there you have the Elk Hair Caddis.